is about the nature, spatial patterns and future directions of the global viticulture and winemaking industry. And today what I want you to be able to do is to learn the location of where wine's made. So hopefully by the end of the lesson you can explain where wine is produced and then explain some of the issues that face the wine industry today. So the first slide I want to show you is a basic map of the world which shows all the wine producing areas in the world. As you can see, it is a global industry, with the exception of Antarctica. Wine is produced in every single continent around the world. But what you can see, and the 60 degrees north latitude is missing, there's a set band of latitude that wine grows in. It does not grow near the equator. It grows between basically 30 degrees south and 60 degrees south, as well as in the northern hemisphere, 30 degrees north to 60 degrees north as well. So that's really important to look at where the location is, because obviously it's going to affect the wine industry. If you want to take this back to where the old and new world wines are, obviously the countries in red, they're our new world wine industries, and then we've got in purple the old wine industries, and then we've got a new and up and coming wine producing country in the form of China. This is a really interesting map that you might want to pause the video and take in a bit more and read information there. Really good thing for you to do. What I want you to do though, and I want you to, this is one of the tasks I want you to copy out that, this slide, and I want you to fill in the gaps, and I also want you to make a copy of that world map, putting on the lines of latitude on. Make sure you give your map a title, because that's something that's really that you can use in your essays when you're talking about locations. And then in that box below, here are some of the world's most famous wine growing regions. You've got France, Bordeaux, Champagne, Provence and Alsace, Italy, Tuscany, Piedmont and Umbria, and Germany, the Rhine Valley, USA, Napier, and then Australia you've got the Hunter and Barossa valleys. So make sure you've got a note of those as well. Here's the answers. Hopefully what you've done, you've pressed pause before you fill that in, and then here's a little task just to make sure you remember that the wine is grown between 30 and 60 degrees lines of latitude in both southern and northern hemisphere, and that's something that's you've got to really know. Alright, so moving on, the top 4 wine producing countries, France, Italy and Spain and USA, account for 43% of all grape production and 58% of all wine production. What I want you to do now is answer that question. What does this tell you about Australia's wine production? And what I mean by that, is it big, is it small? Have a little think about that and answer that question. So I just want you to press pause, and in your Cornell notes I want you to answer that question, please. Okay, what I want you to do is to think about the answer to this question. Why does the location of the wine industry affect its future? And what I want you to do is just to press pause and quickly think about the answer, and just jot down some things you think you could include to answer that question before we discuss in the answer, and I'll start. The rest of the lesson will be about future effects of the industry. So just press pause, have a little think. I'll come back to you in a second. Okay, so location is very important to wine, because we've got different climate regions, different weather systems in those belts of latitude, and obviously the grapes, they need a certain amount of water, a certain amount of sunlight, they're prone to frosts, So all these things that take into account, it really does have a significant effect on wine. So location is really, really important, and that's what drives the price of wine up. Sometimes it drives the price of wine down. That's what makes agricultural land valuable, less valuable. And if you look at Australia Hunter Valley, you'll see that Hunter Valley isn't best suited for the wine industry, and that's why particularly places like Tamburlaine, which we're going to see next week, um, have separate vineyards in different places around the country and state. So it is really vital that the location does affect the future of the success of the vineyard. All right, so really, really important. Now, this question is a little bit different. I want you to start thinking, before we answer this, the future challenges facing the global viticulture and wine making industry. So what we need to do before we answer this, I just want you to press pause again and try and predict what you think some of the answers to the question are. Okay, so here's a list of some of them, not all of them, and I'll explain this in a little bit more detail. So as we talked about last lessons, one of the major challenges is that tension between traditional methods of winemaking and industrial production process, and we'll look at that in a bit more, but those tensions really will affect the wine industry significantly. We've got changes in spatial patterns of production and consumption. So what we've seen in these traditional places of where wine's made, like France, Spain, there's been a decline in wine making and wine consuming. So wine it's still popular, but not as popular, and people aren't making as much wine there. We've also seen new emerging markets, which has increased competition from the New World. They're called branded wines, and Yellowtail is an example of that brand. So we'll look at that in a bit more detail. We've got changes in consumer taste. Not everyone likes wine and wants to drink wine in the future, so that's more competition that the wine industry makes. And also there is a lot more competition from other alcoholic beverages. The beer industry, the craft beer industry in Australia is taking off. So really, really important, and the effect that has on the wine industry. Then you've got changes in marketing and retailing. The way wine has all alcohol has changed in Australia, and we'll be looking at that soon, about licensing laws, where people can drink but they can't, and so on. Then you've got the biophysical interactions effect, ecological sustainability. How can we make sure that the wine that we produce on a large scale is still using sustainable methods of farming that allow the fields to be sustainable for the future. And then we've got changes in climate. Climate change is having a big effect on the wine industry. It changes where wine can be made and what types of wine can be made. This is the little final slide, and I just want to show you this little this little picture. So you've got in the top right hand picture of France, you've got the different climate regions of wine. You've got obviously the green, the cool to intermediate, and then warm to hot, and then you've got some of the famous wine regions. That's 1950. As you look at 2050 projected, there is a lot more warm to hot regions of wine, and more different changes in that cool to climate. And you've got to think about, well, what effects is that going to have on the wine industry? People are going to have to change the way they farm, how they farm. And then if you look at the bottom picture, you've got it overall, and that's from 1950 to 2099. Big pressures on where these where wine can be grown. If you look at Australia, I know it's not the greatest of picture, but the red line is where in 2099 where the growing region is. That's we're losing almost half of the winemaking industry due to climate change. So really does have a significant issue on the wine industry. Um, so what I want you to do now for the rest of the lesson, you've got those tasks to do, but the final thing I want you to do is to explain what you can see in this map and explain how climate change can affect the wine industry. Alright, I hope that works. And yep, see you later. Bye.